I'm not saying I was the first, but I remember a doc going, you can't administer blood. I'm like, great, I'll carry it. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's a logistic item. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to bring it with me. And I'm going to get on the dang radio and I'm going to call somebody. And then I'm going to write you up saying you didn't let us use this stuff. But I'm going to carry it.
This is AfterSOF. I'm Daniel Bell.
And I'm Patrick Brennan.
Today we had Joseph Barnard, a former AfSOC, or Air Force Special Operations Command Crow.
Yeah, and Joe, we had an awesome conversation with him. We talked about the evolution of Air Force Special Operations from, early 90s all the way through 2016. And we had a really long conversation about the topics on transition and how focusing on a network within a certain geography, learning the language of business, and it's a really awesome conversation. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoy.
Joe, thanks for being on the podcast today. Appreciate you taking time out of your day, joining Daniel and I. You had a pretty interesting military career in the Air Force. Where'd you start? How'd you get into the military?
Yeah, I was under it. Hey, thanks for having me, by the way, guys. It's great to be on with you. Appreciate you doing this for the community. I grew up in South Florida. I was an underachiever kid. I was probably a D and F student. My saving grace was I wasn't scared to jump off of anything. So that helped me out. So I knew I was going to go into service, in high school. In fact, I did delayed enlistment as a junior in high school. I was originally in the Army, 82nd. I did that for a little bit, got out, and then joined the Air Force. So. Okay,
cool. 82nd Airborne. So how did you make that transition? What was the decision to go from Army to Air Force? You were enlisted in the Air Force initially, or?
Yeah, I was big time, terrible student. I grew up dyslexic, and I was a small kid. I was picked on a lot. I was bullied a lot. A lot of anger as a kid, very loving mom, but, my dad was always working hard and all that. I had good family, uncles to protect me, that type of stuff, but it was an interesting time. And I joined the Army, really good camaraderie with those guys. Still friends with many of them today. But it really wasn't for me, attack that hill, you're not allowed to question why. I would like to be a reasoning, thinking, sort of applying type person. I always knew, like, when I had counselors and teachers tell me I'm not smart, I'm like, no, I just don't want to learn the way you want to teach me. I think I'm smart. I just, I freaking hate reading because I got to reread it 18 times, so man, if you teach me a class or something like that, I'll be more into it. I'm more tactile, sort of peripatetic type person. So that was interesting, sort of explaining that and doing that out. So, jumping out of planes, all that stuff sounded really cool to me, and that's why I did that. But the Army life sort of wasn't for me, so I got out, went back to South Florida, drove beer trucks, delivery trucks, was lifeguard on, some of the South Florida beaches. And then I heard about Pararescue, and I was like, ooh, yeah, this sounds pretty good. So they had a unit down in Homestead. I went down there to test, and man, I was like, all right, I'm on this.
What year was that?
The job is as cool as it sounds.
What year was that?
That was 88.
88.
Yeah, I was in a pipeline from 88 to 90.
So with the pipeline, at the time, were they sending you all to what we call SOCM now, or did you do your own paramedic training at that time?
Yeah, we actually did National Registry. We didn't get paramedic until I was in, so it was EMTB initially. We had our own PJ Dirt Medicine.
Okay.
That we did, Pararescue's medical treatment was really good. And the only reason why we went with National Registry and stuff like that is because you got to go do these ride-alongs under a doctor's license inside a hospital and through an EMS service and all that type of stuff. So it became more structured, but we were always sticking tubes and doing all sorts of advanced stuff that even street medics weren't doing for the history of Pararescue. So it just evolved as sort of a formal training process throughout my career. It was amazing. I was in from 88 to 2016. So, I was enlisted for about 13 and a half years and then got commissioned. It's amazing the advancement in shooting, moving, communicating, radios, parachutes, diving, our medical treatment, our confined space rescue, our technical rescue, how we interacted with the helo. I mean, it's just unreal, the evolution over those times. You can be, probably the biggest foot stomp for your audience. The first one is you could be an entrepreneur or inside the bureaucracy. Somebody gives you a wet noodle, say frickin' thank you, and start pushing that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just go, Roger that. You're telling me no? Oh, I'm going to salivate more. Like that sort of, you got to have that mindset. Like, no, like, what are we doing? Like the survivor, patient, evader needs this. I'm their advocate. When they become a survivor, patient, evader, I'm owning this. So you're going to have all sorts of, people who don't like risk in your way, and you figure out how to mitigate that. If somebody's risk adverse, you get them out of your life.
Yeah.
If you find somebody who can calmly, deliberately mitigate risk, is like, okay, I can work with you. Let's be on the team. Let's figure this out. Because I don't want to lose my fingers and toes, but I sure to hell don't want to hear a no, and I want to go do this and help somebody. And do
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, that time period, I mean, that's probably one of the largest evolutions in our military history, right?
Yeah.
Like from
Somalia. So you had Panama, Somalia, and then rolling
War,
into the
Balkans. I mean, I mean all of that, and then, I mean, were in the 90s? Were you involved in any of those operations?
No, I didn't really get into any operations until after 9/11. Supported some stuff like the Marine barracks. When I was in the Army, we were up in Germany, and the Marine barracks was blown up in Beirut. Like some of us went down and supported that from an outside type thing and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. Like I probably had 8 different sets of uniforms, different helmets, and like the evolution of the gear and everything over that time was just unreal.
Right.
Just amazing, to sort of be in that. And I wouldn't have stayed in that long. Like, once, I was enlisted, had a young family, got commissioned, finally got studious, went to school while I was at the schoolhouse. I was an instructor at the schoolhouse in our air ops, had time to go to school, did that. I just sort of, we made family choices and sort of different choices, and the reason why I stayed in that long. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing that from an outside looking in on that type of career, right? I mean, that's just, I'm sure there's just so much evolution. We've talked about that, but it's just so interesting to me, right? Like I mean, you even think about the level of risk, right? Even from a commander point of view, right? Like how that risk threshold probably expanded quite a bit over that time as well.
You guys know the training that we do is almost more dangerous than the ops, right? Because a lot of times it's new people or people new to the team and trading iterations that are happening. And then you start stacking all this progression that we just laid out. You got to train for it. You got to train, crawl, walk, run, right? Park task training before you do full mission profiles, all that stuff. So that there's some dangerous stuff that happens in training. And then just to get people to understand the risk associated with that, and we're doing new stuff. Like I remember, there was an evolution. Like when I went through free fall training, the instructor said, "This is what you did." And you go, "Yeah, Roger that." When I was an instructor, you go to a student, "Hey, this is what you did." And they go, "No, I'm not sure I did that." You're like, "Shit, we better start filming these yahoos so we can show them that this is what we did. I'm sick of arguing with this guy, right?" So then they're like, "Well, you can't throw that stuff on your helmet. You got to get all sorts of waivers to start filming people." And, this is way before GoPros and cell phones. And, we're jumping with, cameras the size of your backpack on your head,
Yeah.
So it was just really interesting to see sort of how it went. But I guess the big takeaway is we just never lost motivation. And we always, of course, there was tons of frustration. Don't get me wrong. Anybody listening, you get frustrated as MF on a lot of this stuff, but you wake up the next day and you go, "Okay, man, this is where we got to go. What do we have to do to get there?"
Yeah. Yeah. Pushing that evolution from the inside from the bottom up. Right. So you went enlisted late 80s through the 90s. And then what was it? 2001 you went officer, or?
Yep.
Was
February of 2001, I got commissioned.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then, so
they started the combat rescue officer career field. So pararescue was evolving our radios, our medical procedures, and back in the day, helicopter pilots and HC-130 pilots were in charge of us, and special tactics officers. So they really didn't understand the specifics associated with rescue, and also those aircraft were becoming more and more complex, especially the helicopters. So we had a chief named Paul Miller up at the Pentagon, and there was an open treadmill one day on the next to the Secretary of the Air Force, a guy named Whit Peters, and he got on there, and by the time that run, about an hour run was done, Pitsenbarger's Air Force Cross was going to be upgraded to a Medal of Honor, and they were going to look at having a officer in charge of pararescue. And so originally they were going to call it the PRO, Personal Recovery Officer. Imagine that being called the PRO, how much shit you'd take if you were called the PRO, right? So then they came up with the Combat Rescue Officer, CRO, and that started in 2000, and I was the number 4 guy picked up for that. And there's like 270 now.
wow.
So really cool to be part of something's inception.
Yeah. And so you go through that course, and 9/11 happens, and so the whole trajectory of your career probably gets shifted quite a bit. How did the last phase of your career look from that point on, from 2001?
I was a second lieutenant with gray hair and sort of an enlisted 13-year enlisted guy's medals on his chest type stuff. And so the 38th RQS was the first, Crow-led squadron stood up, and then 9/11 happened, and we started deploying people all over the place. And guys started passing away. We started, ops temp. Like I think those, and it was either 22 and 23 or 21, and it was probably 22 and 23. I was gone like 290 each of those years, which is a lot for the Air Force. Usually our deployments are like 5 months.
Right.
So, it was busy, and we were just trying to do a ton of stuff and supporting both the Army and the Navy and what Air Force Rescue needed out there for the fighters that were out there doing their stuff. So it got pretty busy, a lot of deployments, and grew a lot, learned a lot. I had a lot of generals come up and tap me like, "What? Hey, First Lieutenant, what do you have Master Aircrew Wings on your chest or Master Jumping? Who the hell are you? What's your deal?" So,
yeah, because that's
great stories associated with that. And I just tried to be the officer I wish I had when I was enlisted.
Yeah.
That was my initial philosophy, because there's some pretty astute generals that would talk to me, and colonels, and they'd be like, just talking to me about the difference between the force. And they were really surprised to hear there was more integrity in the enlisted force than in the officer force. That was my opinion and what I saw.
Yeah. And that's somewhat of an anomaly in the Air Force, or it was, isn't it, to have people cross over from enlisted to officer?
Yeah, it usually happens around the 4-year mark. A lot of guys go fly, after a 4-year mark or something like that. But for as old as I was, and I had some Army time on the front end too. So I was like 27 when I joined the Air Force. So when I got commissioned, I'm in my late 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely brings a lot of perspective to that. I remember earlier in the war, probably about midway through it, there were a lot of Ranger medics that wanted to go be PJs, and I at the time the Air Force it was a little difficult for former Army guys, even though they had all the schools and these different qualifications. It was really hard to cross over to the Air Force to do some of that stuff. So I know that there's probably some misgivings and a little misunderstanding between the branches, even though we work together too.
No, I mean, all the medics are really good. We had good, austere emergency. We had blood on the battlefield like in 2003.
Yeah, PJs were pushing that big time. I remember at the beginning of the war. I was
like one of the first guys. I'm not saying I was the first, but I remember a doc going, "You can't administer blood." I'm like, "Great, I'll carry it." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a logistic item. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to bring it with me, and I'm going to get on the dang radio, and I'm going to call somebody, and then I'm going to write you up saying you didn't let us use this stuff. But I'm going to carry it." So, and that guy hated us. But the beautiful thing is we were operators. We weren't underneath the medical community in the Air Force tried to garner us all the time.
Yeah.
You know, being the world-class, you know, trauma medics that we are is just a similar skill to, you know, parachuting or confined space rescue or the other stuff. It's just one of our, we are true operators. So they tried to, you know, they didn't understand sort of like why we acted the way we did and sort of how we did stuff. But we complex problem solved pretty well. And that guy actually gave an apology to us.
Wow.
He really did. He didn't think we could handle sort of the unique setup and you know, it's pararescue doesn't save people, the hospital does.
Right.
Yeah.
You just got to get there quick and you got to get them back to the hospital.
Right.
Any medic on the scene or whatever, they need a doctor. Absolutely. Any medic who says they don't need a doctor, they just need me. Man, run as fast as you can from that.
Yeah, that's dangerous. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to get, so they were like, man, if you could put coagulants in somebody or you could pass a drug on somebody where it jacks them up in the OR.
Yeah.
That is real stuff underneath those doctors' licenses.
Yep.
So once doctors realize like we got their back and we want them to have a good OR procedure, then they're like, oh shit, you guys get it. Like you guys understand contraindications and, you know, I forget all the medical terminology. It's been so long. So, but man, we pushed the envelope associated with, you know, interosseous versus IVs and plasma. And, you know, if somebody loses a lot of blood and all you do is push water into them, that's all IVs are.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to drop the percentages of the red blood cells, which oxygenate them. Like you're just going to kill them later on down the road. So it's, you know, there's scientific reasons why we tried to do everything. Once they realized that we were smart and what we were doing, they were like, oh, they got on our side. But some of those initial conversations were pretty tough.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting just listening to you talk, right? And we're probably repeating a lot of the same things as I'm saying this, but like to push the envelope, you're talking about pushing that wet noodle, right? Like, I mean, the evolution that had to happen, like the mindset that you had to have and probably others that served with you, right? To push all these things forward is, I mean, it's awesome, right? Like,
yeah, because we aren't going to have change unless you're.
Yeah, somebody has to do it,
Yep.
right? Somebody has to push it, and so as that whole career, it almost sounds like that's what you were doing. Your whole career is just kind of pushing the envelope, evolving, you know, Air Force Pararescue, Air Force Special Ops. Like, that's a pretty awesome accomplishment to look back on.
Man, there's so much good stuff in my rearview mirror. It's unreal. Like there's so many stories like that blood story. It's unreal.
Yeah.
But to throw, like you mentioned a picture of us throwing quads out of the back of a plane. We were actually in Jordan before we leapfrogged into Baghdad at the start of the war.
Okay.
And we were doing some stuff with some F-16s on the border and things of that nature, some call for fire. But, you know, like the people who package up those quads are like, oh, like we're like, hey, we want to throw out wave runners. We want to throw out snowmobiles. They're like, no, you got to can't do that type of stuff. We're like, hey, we need to be on any terrain ever. So they actually wrote their regulations constricted, like, you know, only this quad can go in there and stuff like that. So we'd go in there and change their regs. Like, it doesn't matter what's in there. As long as it's packed this way, it's good to go.
Yeah.
Type stuff. So like a lot of the pushing the noodle isn't like, it's a lot of late nights sitting on a computer, changing other people's regs that they're too lazy to change on their own. That is too restrictive to what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that stuff is very frustrating. While you're sitting there typing it, you're like, I can't believe these MFs don't want to do this for us. Like, I ain't got time to do this shit. Like,
Right.
I got other stuff to do.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
in order
you know,
to
it's
push
one of
it,
those things
can,
you look.
You know, and you'll get guys come over and go, man, I can't believe we made you guys do that and all that. And those little things sort of lift you up and, you know, yeah, you're right. My community it's, you know, too bad they did that. But
Yeah.
like I said, there's a lot of briefcase carriers in the Air Force versus backpack wearers.
Yeah.
There's people who think they can slay the dragon. you know, there's other people, very few people really can, and then be okay the next day after doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's, as you look back, you're probably really proud of all the things you guys did and evolved the community, but I'm sure going through it sucked, you know, frustrating and painful, and, you know, time away from your family and all those things. But
We had a lot of wins. So those wins are just awesome. And, you know, yeah, the time away from your family, but, you know, I have a 30-year marriage. That's one of my passions right now. We'll get into this, but, you know, young couple, there's such, you know, talking to Tom and Jen Satterley, I don't know if you know them, but they have Operation Homefront and All Secure Foundation. Like the divorce rate inside SOF is just so high.
It is.
You know, and we got two amazing boys, and the four of us are thick as thieves. They're 26 and 23 and 30+ year marriage. And I mean, it can be done. I never joined a tier 1 unit because I was like, ooh, this may be bad around the times of all the stuff we're going through. But I had a great career, and so yeah, there's a lot of wins, but no win is awesome unless you have all these struggles. You know, the road is long and the gates are narrow, right? Like it's not none of this shit is easy.
yeah. Well, right. I mean, it's the good memories are the ones that you probably suffered through when you were doing it, right? Those are the memories you look back on and smile and you know.
You grew the most.
Yeah. You know, there's no cakewalk, right? You got to have struggle. You've got to have hardships. But as you go, so we're looking back on your career. I mean, how many years in total? 33 years, man. That's enlisted and officer. You know, pushing the envelope for evolution of special operations in the Air Force. 2016 is when you got out.
Yep.
And so, talk to us a little bit about that, right? Like, a long career. You've got a family, raised a family, and now, okay, you transition out. Like, did you have identity issues?
Did you know what you were going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people, well, we've talked about this before. It's always like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out. I'm looking forward to retirement. But did you have a plan?
My initial plan was rely on my retirement. You know, 33 pension, 05, 33-year pension as an 05 is pretty good. And we did pretty good with our money. So, you know, I was a tech sergeant when I got commissioned. So we pretty much lived like an E7, even when I was an 04, 05. So we were pretty good with our money. It's hard getting out. Yeah, you lose your tribe. You know, you wonder what you're going to do next. You wonder if you have value in the civilian world, like how that's going to work out. Like you have all those questions. So it took me like a year to believe my check was going to show up every month. Like I'm like, no, they're not going to send me this money. Like, so it'd show up and I'd be cool for about 8-10 days. And then like 20 days, the next 20 days until the check showed up, I was like, I better start looking for something or whatever. So took a year off, I taught my oldest how to skydive like when I was still in, and then took a year off. My youngest was in senior year of high school, taught him how to skydive, hung around with him, did some volunteering. And then as soon as we dropped him off of college, me and Megan traveled Southeast Asia for 6 months. So we were in Singapore and Thailand and Bali and just sort of having a ball. Yeah. And we were saving money off my pension. Like it's, you know, like Bali's like 1/8 the price of the US, Thailand's like 1/6 the price. I mean, it's awesome, you know? And so she's a yoga instructor, a mindfulness person, nutritional health coach, you know, really healthy human. And we just, man, had a ball over there, just going around and doing yoga and surfing and hanging out in pool villas. And I was on the internet, you know, with the web, and I have an okay LinkedIn presence. So, I mean, I'm pretty picky about who I connect with on LinkedIn. I just don't accept all and all that stuff. But, you know, I think I'm up close to 4,000 or something like that now, but I stayed connected. I joined organizations, Elite Meet, Special Operations Transition Foundation, American Corporate Partners, hooked up with some people with Commit Foundation. The Honor Foundation wasn't around yet by the time I retired. But my best friend was an executive with Office Depot And my brother is been in Chevron forever, started out in operations and got into maintenance of the refinery and then ran their UAS program towards the end of his career. So talking with them, I always knew that there's value for military dudes. Mm-hmm. Civilians are lacking leadership big time.
Yeah.
They have a leadership gap. They don't plan. They don't pre-brief. They execute. And then they don't debrief. And then they get back in execution. They wonder why it's all jacked up.
Right.
It's puzzling. And then they also think the tech gap that military members bring into the civilian world is larger than what it is. I don't think they realize military members grow and evolve all sorts of technical stuff.
Yeah.
And so really it's an untapped resource. Talent War Group's doing amazing. Mike Cirilli and George Randall and Carly Walden, they're doing amazing stuff, like sort of promoting what military members can do. But I always had super confidence that if I got into a place, 30, 60, 90 days after you're there, you're going to be doing more than a brisk walk. You're probably going to be a slow trot.
Well, did you have that mindset? I guess looking back on what you were saying. I mean, it sounds like your wife had a good positive influence on you, right? Is it just to keep you focused on sort of physical health and mental health, right?
Yeah.
You have a presentation that you shared with Daniel and I, and one of the quotes on there, a part of identity, right? As you transition out, was, "I was part of both these men when I was in. I am both these men now that I'm out." Right, between the civilian and the military perspective, right? Like when you're in, right, the focus is more like you're a soldier, you're an airman, you're the military is your identity, but really that other part is still there. It doesn't go away. As you transition out, now you have to almost put that military person aside, take the lessons learned, and then focus on building your civilian career, your civilian life.
Yeah.
I
agree. I think pararescue had a lot to do with that, because you really can't be stiff and be in pararescue.
Yeah.
Like, the patient has a say. He could be on the side of a mountain with a head injury, or he could be in the water with a broken leg.
Yeah.
And you got to be ready to go get that dude or dudette, right? And so, like you guys see me, I got long hair, like, in that picture from that brief, the transition homeostasis brief you're talking about, like, I'm a skydiver surfer, and God bless the vets. Like, I have no issues with anybody. I really don't. If a vet wants to walk around with the ship he's in, or what VFW is part of, or what Vietnam organization he's in, and act all curmudgeon and stuff like that, God bless you. I could care less if people knew I was in or not.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, it's what I did. It's not who I am. It's part of who I am, but it's not, it's a rearview mirror. My windshield's way bigger.
Yeah.
I'm a husband, father, brother, friend, follower of Christ. There's so many different things to me that I'm interested in and what I want to do. It's just way cool.
So talking about that a little bit, your identity and your, what drove you to live where you're living now? Was it family? Was it like, because that identity, a lot of people get wrapped up in not having people to connect with. So then they end up wearing a kind of a chip on their shoulder to tell everybody who they were, because they aren't connected to anybody or anything.
Yeah, isolated.
We are struggling with this, what you just described, right now. So we're both in our mid-50s. I'm in my late 50s. Megan's in her mid-50s. I'm in my late 50s. She's in her mid-50s. Like, the people we want to hang out with are like in their late 30s, 40s. Right. Like, people our age are talking about their pills and yelling at Fox News or CNN, and worried about their gout and freaking stuff like that. We're like, whoa, but then we're also like, you meet people now and it's so tough raising kids because of devices and shame that they're fighting and all that. And this is tied to why we came to Chattanooga, and I'll get to that. But we are really struggling finding. We've moved 23 times. We've been professional church finders. We've really tried. We're both extroverts. We try to find friends, but it is no joke. It's really difficult. And all I can do is say what's worked for us is you just got to stick with it. You just can't get frustrated. Even though we have moments like, man, I wish we had more people, that we had these soulful relationship. I think that's the biggest thing military members get up, is that you move all the time. And if you meet somebody who's from Charlotte or Kansas City or LA or Phoenix, and they've been there 20 years, they have these soulful friends that they've been in and out of struggles and times with. And it's really tough as military members to find that. So after 2016, we got around. During that time, I was a 1099 guy, helped some people with contracts, get contracts awarded. I wouldn't call myself a business owner. Like, I was just somebody that got paid a contract. And then I got hooked up with a job through Special Operations Transition Foundation with a wireless construction company. They were going through a mini merger and acquisition. An internal business development guy wanted to buy out the majority shareholder, founder, owner. And so their operations was not as tight as it should have been. And so I went in there and helped them out with that. That was pre-COVID, and we had 2 homes, and it sounds more chic than what it sounds. Flying back and forth between Jacksonville and Atlanta. And I was like, man, I'd just rather be with my wife than sort of travel around and chase this money. It was great pay, and they are awesome people, and talked to a bunch of them to this day. They're just great. But I said, hey, I got this where you needed to be. I'm bailing on you guys. And they were surprised because they offered me a percentage of the company and stuff like that. But really, money's not what it's about. It's more about my connection with Megan first and foremost. And then if I'm in a sort of a place of service. So then Talent War Group, I've been buddies with Mike Sorelli a while. And they found me a job. There was a resident or a behavioral health company called Embark that had a facility in Benton, Tennessee, and they wanted to turn into a facility for boys. And they wanted to be tactile, experiential. Boys are really underserved in the mental health space. 85% of all beds, residential treatment beds, are for girls. 85% of all workers are girls. And then if boys are being treated, it's more like, hey, let's sit down and talk, not sort of get out and do stuff and then share through motion. Mm-hmm. And so that was sort of a calling for us. And so we took that on, and we moved up. Benton, Tennessee is about an hour and a half north of Chattanooga, and we were in a little apartment. Ran that for a year. I did that for a couple of years, and I just turned it over a couple months ago to the clinical director. And amazing company, but they sort of didn't want to take it as far as I wanted to take it, as far as the experiences for the boys. The company sort of went more. They just wanted to do more like internal office therapy, and I wanted it to be out in space and stuff like that. So honestly, really absolutely nothing bad to say about that company or whatever, but it just wasn't a wet noodle that I was willing to push anymore. I got them to a place after a couple years. We went from a broken down facility with, spider webs in it to 50 plus employees and I think we served like 70 families in that 2 years that I was there, and built it out and built the staff. And so it was just amazing. So, I've been interviewing with a pretty cool thing. I can't make an announcement just yet, but I should have an offer letter coming in today on something super, really cool. Okay. That is really, and it's going to be in the vet space, helping serve veterans. And so I think that's going to be my next thing.
Yeah.
I'll share that with you guys as it gets going. So
let's talk a little bit about the Special Operations Transition Foundation. So Patrick and I recently connected with Lauren Manley.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
And through that, she got excited with the fact that we were not focusing on all these contracts, right? Because you get out of the service, and it's so easy to just stay in that community.
Yeah, that rut.
Yeah. So everybody, you see all these guys that are like, oh, I make good money. I'm just going to do this last contract. I'm just going to do one more. I got myself in a place, but you get used to that money and that lifestyle, and you have a skill set where you can make the same money, but you can be giving more to your community, and you can actually like settle in and experience it. Can you tell us a little bit about how Special Operations Transition Foundation has helped, or how you've been able to help them out, or what it is exactly that they do?
So I think guys need to join many organizations. Mm-hmm. As you go to these events with those organizations, you got to have some couth about you and not talk about the other organizations. But, you you gotta really open up your aperture because the world's your oyster. And so, there's another quote in that briefing that I sent you guys. It was from Jordan Peterson, like an inopportune question confuses without enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you pick a geography, like if you pick, I'm going to Dallas and these are the companies I want to be in and blah, 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 and this is the job I think I can do, you're going to get an offer from, Lincoln, Nebraska, right? And you really have to have discipline going, nope, this is where I want to be. This is what I'm going to focus on. And it's the same thing with USA Jobs. Do not fill out a USA Jobs. If you're miserable as an 05, 06, E7, E8 at the headquarters, you're going to be miserable as a GS-15, right? Like you got to give it, like the bureaucracy will beat you up. Like you can only stay in there so long, right? You got to move on. Like you need a freshness.
Yeah. It's almost like comfort zones, right? Like we talk about, especially we pride ourselves as being in special operations, like, oh, push yourself outside your comfort zone, except when it comes to our own like income source, right? We really like to stay in that one, area, DoD contracts or DoD positions, like lateral transfers from military service and not, break that comfort zone and try something new.
I probably have 5 guys reach out to me, 3 to 5 guys a week on LinkedIn that I talk to. Like supposedly my transition's been a success. There's guys promoting that out there and all that. It's hard giving people advice. Like if a 14-year guy is getting out, right? Like the first thing I'm gonna talk about is how old are your kids? What's your finances like? Like I got out and I had a pension.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a job. I want a job. What a wonderful place to flex off that. But me and my bride set that up over a 30-year career. Like we had good people focusing on us. So transition should start 4 years out minimum.
Yeah.
I've talked to guys who are talking about transitioning like us. I'm not even thinking about it. And another thing too in the military, which is so unique, there are 06s that have 3 divorces. They've been bankrupt a couple times that don't have a pot to piss in. And in the same unit, there'll be an E4 that may have $500,000 in the bank.
Right.
So rank and all that is not usually, it's like, oh, that guy's a colonel. He knows what he's talking about and stuff like that. It's like, I know E4s that are running cyber departments in companies. I know O5s that are driving forklifts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So really, is that out of choice or is that a necessity? So there's so many different things to talk about. There's so many different avenues. So you really have to have structure and you got to lay out, a plan to what's going on. And then we haven't even mentioned the buffoonery of the VA and going through all that and what's got to happen to you with that stuff. So that's just another, just spread your legs and be ready to be kicked in the junk 87 times, right? Like,
Yeah.
So it's really, you got to really be purposeful transitioning out. Everybody's situation is different based on their finances, where they want to be, where their family's at. And so people really got to sit down and do a pros and cons list and all that type of stuff. So that's why I made that brief, because guys were asking me, I'm like, well, I better lay this all out.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do USA Jobs, you better understand capitalism. And YouTube is your friend. Get on YouTube and watch CFOs explain a P&L, what profit and loss is, what accounts receivables is, what accounts payable is, what EBITDA is, what invoices are, what change orders are. You got to speak their language, and then all that leadership skill and your problem solving, they're going to love you. But if you don't walk in and sort of speak their language a little bit, why aren't you studying? Why aren't you applying yourself? Why aren't you going for something different?
We've seen that a little bit more in like SkillBridge, like looking at LinkedIn profiles, I'm kind of disappointed sometimes because when I'm looking at someone's military history, like I want to know what they did, but because they're trying to translate everything over to the corporate side. So I do see a lot of people that are working on learning that language before they actually get out of the military. So I think there is that positive after a 20-year war. There is that positive forward-looking, like, hey, things are changing. I need to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just like the perspective, right? Like, we talk about mindset. So one, you've got to have the mindset to branch out beyond your comfort zone a little bit when you're looking at careers. But then you got to learn the language, right? I mean, we talk about an operational environment all the time, right? Like okay, we'll go learn Spanish if we're going to operate in South America. We'll network within, the supply sergeants or, whatever department we need to associate with to make sure we have everything we need to get the job done in the military. But you don't take those skill sets necessarily and apply them in the civilian sector. And I'll tell you, networking is something we always talk about, how important it is, but I didn't really see the necessity of it until my paycheck was associated with it, right? Like as a commission-based employee.
Your CRM, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to meet people. I need to get out there. So, yeah.
The dirty secret on jobs that are posted in civilians, especially jobs military members, like if you're above an E704, what you're going for, they already know who they want to hire before they post that job.
Mm-hmm.
They're hiring from internal. It's smart. It's, they already know the person. They do that just the same way we got promoted. It was about networking inside the military. Like when I was a lieutenant, there was lieutenant colonels that thought I was squared away. When I became a lieutenant colonel, they're now a general, right? So they're like, man, I trust Barnard. He's got this thing. So they're going to move them into a position. That's okay. So when I was getting out, I had a guy call me, he goes, yeah, man, this is what you got to do. You're going to have to have 18 different resumes, customize a job, try to beat the computer. You're going to probably have 200 different cover letters by the time you go. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, man, I mean, shoot me now. Like, no way I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to go out. So that's why I recommend geography first. Once you go to geography, you got to network. You got to get on LinkedIn. You got to go have coffees, bourbon, lunch with people. Yeah. Just have discoveries. And you want them to like you so much that they're recommending you like you're inside the company.
Yeah.
And you could do it. And that's the way I did it. That's the way. And you got to know what you don't want. Like there's great money out there in finance jobs, but they drive those guys really hard. They make them wear ties. I'm not wearing a tie, sorry. Yeah. And like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to look at spreadsheets. I'm more about the people and processes.
Yeah.
And, I'm more about a 14 burner stove with 28 pots. That's who I am. And so, so mine's more of a, operations COO type role, executive director role, like, the complexity. Not everybody can do that. Some people just want to sit there and code and do that type of stuff. Great, man. I love having coders work for me. I'll get production out of you.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit there and do that. So.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of that too, especially with the big focus on transition and all nonprofits that are helping people transition out. Like you need exposure. It's a little bit trial and error, right? If you spent a career in the military, you don't always necessarily know what those other jobs are like, right? So you got to do some taste testing, I guess, on some of that stuff, and then probably find something that fits you, right? You're probably going to be finally dealing with some of the mental things that you've been ignoring for a long time. You've got to find the right match, right? That allows you to kind of live a healthy lifestyle, but also keeps you interested and engaged.
Stigma's going away. If somebody's angry, like you got to be kind. You got to be competent every day, and you got to be kind every day.
Mm-hmm.
Competence easier than the kindness for some of the stuff we saw and did, right? So you better go get professional help, and it is strong to go get professional help.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation with one of our previous guests, who's a social worker, and he was talking about when he was on a team, how their sergeant major had been going to get care for like 3 years, but when he's briefing everybody, he's up there saying, "Hey, everybody needs to be ready to do this, this, and this," without even talking about, "Hey guys, if you need someone to go talk to, make sure that's part of your plan to be operational." So we see leadership. I think for the SOF community, like General Bulldog, he was one of the early people to come out and say, "Hey, I've been seeking mental health counseling." He came out and talked about his PTSD and everything. And we look at that and we're like, hey, that's impressive that we have a leader at that level that's talking about those things. But it's even on the team level where people need to be able to make that connection and not not think they're going to climb the ladder by not taking care of their whole health.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Like the current SEAC, Colin Lopez, he was my op soup when I was commander of the schoolhouse. Just Ray is an amazing, amazing dude. Him and his wife, Janet, shared all sorts of stuff. And he just even had a LinkedIn post associated with PTS month. It's not a disorder. I hate the D.
Yeah.
If you did stuff or saw stuff, you're going to have some stuff that you got to work out. There is science behind talk therapy. There is absolutely. And guess what? And it's okay. Like I've talked to a couple counselors and I'm like, man, I want to punch this guy in the neck. Right? It's okay. Go find another one. It's all right. Like you're not going to get along with everybody and all that. But it's really comes down to the team room dynamics. You know, there's negative ones and there's positive ones. And if you're really looking out for each other, of course you're going to go out and drink with the buddies and you're going to, you know, there's this sort of sarcasm, ragging that happens that sort of shows how we love each other, which a lot of people don't understand. But if somebody's really struggling and they share something with you, like if a guy's married, you don't go, hey man, go cheat on her with that girl. You go, hey man, that's enough. You know, I see you sort of making eyes with it. Let's go back. Like you help them out. Like what is the dynamic of the room? And you just, if nobody says anything, then they turn negative. If you proactively sort of help each other with kindness and care. And that's what I love about pararescue. It's like a biblical job, right? Like you can't, so that others may live, right? So it's just fun being inside a job like that and doing that and sort of helping people out. And so the guys have got to talk. They got to get rid of their anger if they have any, because civilians are going to sniff, and it'll scare civilians. That stuff will scare the hell out of civilians if you get angry and, you know, or curmudgeon. It's not good.
Yeah, yeah. And we talked about this the last podcast, right? One way to break the stigma is less, you know, not identifying it as seeking help or as a certain disorder, right? The D word, but you know, how do you implement this as part of your performance plan? How do I become a better performer? And you got to take care of those mental and emotional things, right? As part of it. So,
do you want a wrecker to show up to the crash site, or do you want to change your oil?
Right.
Change your oil, man.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah.
And then peer advice usually isn't good. That's one thing Megan and I did really good is, of course, we talked to peers. People had 1 and 3-year-olds and we had 1 3-year-olds, but we would find a couple that had a 10 and a 14-year-old. Right? And we're like, how'd you do that? Like, give me a plan. Like, you know, so of course you're going to talk to your peers, but if all you do is get peer advice, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Go tap somebody on the shoulder. No older person who has sort of lived and they don't want to live your life for you. They're going to be honored to go, man, this is what we did and all that. Like, you know, it's okay to go up and tap somebody who's, you know, got a decade on you going, man, even the ones that you look like you jacked it up, you know, tap them, man, if there's anything you could have done different, people will help you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Joe, we got a few more minutes here, so kind of diving into the final phase of our conversation, but, you know, what do you got going on now? You kind of hinted at it, and I know I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. It looks like you do some mentorship and coaching, but you're also now a board member of SOAA, Special Operations Association of America.
Yep. So Daniel Elkins founded this thing. He's a Green Beret in the Beltway. Pretty eccentric guy, really cool. He's what's the wine guys? A sommelier?
Oh, yeah.
He's one of those. Just really intricate background. And he's a monster networker. You know, has a political savvy to him and a balance, you know, can get both sides sort of fighting for special operations issues. So, you know, big stuff is mental health right now. It's how we're handling our allies and translators who are still left behind. So stuff we're doing there, burn pit stuff. So it's really great to be on the board and just sort of advocate for veteran special operations issues. And then with Victory Strategies, I love coaching. I'm not a keynote guy. I love doing this. I love sitting down talking to you guys. Giving keynotes is not really good. I don't like my war stories because honestly, they're all generated from failure. If you think about it, when somebody pulls the fire alarm and asks for, Pedro HH-60 helicopters with Guardian Angel PJs to come get them on them, everybody's having a pretty bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a real discomfort with talking about landing at LZs and all the gore that you see and that type of stuff. And so, I'm not a keynote guy, but I love coaching one-on-one and just sort of figuring out. I don't have the answers, but I got life experience, and together the team can solve all problems. So Victory Strategies just has monsters that get on their website and sort of check out the people that are affiliated with it. But they don't really advertise that much because they have just people calling them every day that really want help. But it's a good group because it's a mix of both executive experienced people from the military and civilian world. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. And then, I skydive and surf. I chase Megan around the house as much as I can. And and I may have a big announcement on my next thing here directly.
Cool.
We're excited.
Yeah, no, we're excited for you. As part of this Victory Strategies, you're coaching other like civilian business folks, or is it? Gotcha.
On my sweet spots, like probably a 35, 45-year-old. You sort of, getting ready for senior VP, that type of deal. And they're balancing family and work and, COVID and logistics shortages and things of that nature. So it's really fun. And we vet them really good. Like we won't take on a client who doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
When we first started, like I've been doing it with them for like 4 years. Like one of my first guys said, I never had to pay for a friend before. I'm like, well, dude, sorry, that's not what this is, Or like, initial conversations, I'm like, all right, tell me what you need work on. I feel like I'm pretty good. I'm like, really? I can name 16 things I need to work on like right now. Like, so if they don't have humility and don't look at it as a partnership, a collaboration, then so we vet them pretty good. And the reputation with the team out there is just, there's some monsters on there. Like we got a couple general officers, General Rand, he's just an amazing legend inside the Air Force, 4-star guy. He's one of the nicest guys you've ever met, but really understands. He has a good balance between science and art and accountability and compassion. And 2 Air Force Cross recipients, both they're married, both A-10 pilots, Kim and Scott Campbell. Both 06 retired. Her keynotes are just absolutely amazing. And so there's people that do really good keynotes in there. And there's a GE executive in there. That guy is like, every time he sits down and talk, I just learn so much from him. So it's really cool. I'm humbled to be part of them. I'm sort of that outside the box COA, if you ask me, that is part of them. But I'm happy with my style and what goes on there.
So I would guess, as we're closing this down, this is probably the end of our conversation here, but having that sort of experience and that sort of access to those folks, what would you tell transitioning SOF guys now? Like based on what you're seeing with business folks, how do we bridge that gap to get guys into leadership positions, transitioning out, or what would you tell them as they're getting ready to do that, right?
Yeah, when
regardless of when you want to get out, 6 or 4 years out, there's, if you came in E3, E4, there was probably an E6 or E7 that you were friends with. 01, 02, there's probably an 03 or 04 that you were friends with that's now out. And even if they had a bad transition, they probably worked it out because, the cream rises to the top eventually. Like, you don't have to call them every month, but once a quarter, just have a phone call. Hey, do you mind if I do some networking with you? Call you. How do you like this area? You got to have a LinkedIn profile. It's not that hard. You got to have a photo on there. You don't take all the cool guy stuff. Like I have some photos of me wingsuiting and stuff like that, just so sort of people get to know you, and you can put family pictures on there and sort of, down below my Air Force stuff, there's some military pictures, but just have a good LinkedIn. Just constantly work on that thing. That's your resume. Don't worry about a resume. Network, send out your LinkedIn profile, get with people and just sort of see what's out there and try to figure it out. You got to spend 5% of your time while you're in, 4 years before you get out. Like, what am I going to do? You got to think about it. You got to have family meetings. What's mama want to do? What do the kids want to do? Just sort of keep it together that way.
Yeah, keep that team mindset. Yeah.
And there's plenty, man, even people that I'll like friend somebody who's a finance person. I'll see them on there and I'm like, oh, geez. Right. Not friend, but connect. I'll go, okay, I'll connect. And I'm like, all right, when's the message going to come in that they want to be my financial advisor? Right. And I'm like, of course I'm sitting here rolling, but I'll send them a nice, hey, no, thank you. I've already got somebody. Best of luck to you. If somebody reaches out to me, I'm just going to be cordial back to them and help them out or whatever. So reach out to somebody. And if somebody blows you off, then it wasn't time or whatever. Just keep on keeping on,
Yeah.
So, but there's plenty of people out there that want to help, because the civilian world absolutely needs these stories. There's stories like Brian Decker out there. You guys know Brian Decker with the Indianapolis Colts?
I don't know.
The name
Former
sounds
Special
familiar.
Forces guy, man. He is like
Yeah, you
taking
gotta
the
know your
Colts
Green Beret.
selection and training like to the next levels because of what he did and how he restructured SWIC.
Okay.
So there's just all these just amazing stories out there of people just killing it.
Yeah, now I remember he was an advisor for the Browns and whatnot for a while. Yeah. No,
It's awesome. It's awesome. So all these stories need to be told, this long format stuff that you guys are doing. I know you guys are early into it, but this is great. Like Andy Stump was just on with Mike Sorelli on his Cleared Hot podcast. And he was just talking this last recording about, man, he started 5 years ago and he couldn't believe, like, wait till you guys I'm so excited for you guys. Like, when you guys get 24 months in this thing, you're going to look back and go, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's just about sticking at it. So it's exciting.
It
Everybody should have hope and optimism for an amazing future. A second epic life awaits.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Joe, it's been a great conversation. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and dropping some nuggets of wisdom on us here. Thanks again.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe, we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys. Keep at it. If you need anything, please let me know.
All right, will do.
All right.